Théâtre National de la Presse. Today we have New Democrat MP John Rafferty, who's going to talk about forest industry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me today. I certainly wish it were under different circumstances. The decade-long decline in Canada's forestry industry has continued. And in fact, it's accelerated under the watch of Stephen Harper and his Conservatives. Recently, new statistics were released from Natural Resources Canada for the 2009 fiscal year, and it paints a picture of economic disaster in small rural communities that have traditionally relied on forestry operations as a source of economic activity. In 2009, forest activity contributed just $19 billion to Canada's economy. Now, it sounds impressive, but the sad fact is that 3 years before, in 2006, the first full year of Mr. Harper's government, the forestry sector contributed more than $30 billion to Canada's economy. That's $11 billion of wealth that's been lost, mostly among 300 small communities across this country. And the job numbers in these communities are even worse. When Stephen Harper and his Conservatives took over the reins in Ottawa, 272,029 people were directly employed in the forestry sector in Canada. 3 years later, just 195,320 people are employed, directly employed in the forestry sector. A loss of 77,000 jobs since the Conservatives came to power. And since the start of 2009, more than 1,000 jobs a month have been lost in both British Columbia and Ontario. Again, primarily in small rural communities. The forestry sector is in an absolute crisis. And the Conservative government is in absolute denial. Now, these new numbers beg the question: what are the Conservative MPs who represent some of Canada's 300 forestry-dependent communities? What are they going to do, and what are they doing in Ottawa this week to deal with this crisis? What are the Conservative members who represent Kenora, Bridgewater, Kamloops, Campbell River, and Kamouraska doing? According to the Pembina Institute, while the profitable oil and gas sector receives about $2 billion a year in direct subsidies, $2 billion, gas and oil, struggling forestry community receives about $25 million. And that's money that's tied up with other qualifications. $2 billion for oil and gas, $25 million for forestry. Mr. Flaherty says he doesn't pick winners and losers. Well, he is picking winners and losers. And he's making winners into losers. And the truth is that these Conservative MPs, I talked about just these 5, but there are more, are in Ottawa this week for a caucus meeting. And they're going to get their marching orders from Mr. Harper before they head back to their ridings to talk to their constituents. Now, do New Democrats believe that members of Parliament get their marching orders from their constituents and come to Ottawa to talk to the government? The Prime Minister and his cabinet should be made aware by these MPs that the forestry sector is in crisis, and ensure loan guarantees, support for small single industry towns, and an extension of EI benefits for forestry. At least those should be on the agenda in their caucus meeting this week. And they should be raising red flags about the effect of the expired black liquor subsidy in the United States, and warning the government about a new unfair U.S. subsidy, the Biomass Crop Assistance Plan. Now, I know that they're doing nothing of the sort, and I'm going to tell you quite frankly, because people in my riding know that I tell it like it is. And I know that these MPs, these Conservative MPs, are doing nothing of the sort because they are weak and ineffective representatives and fear this Prime Minister when they should be listening to their constituents. Now, the Harper government has an abysmal record on forestry, and I urge these ineffective Conservative MPs to finally stand up to Stephen Harper and prove their worth and value. This government and these MPs have failed their constituents in small industry towns. Now, in closing, these MPs must finally stand up and finally do their jobs in the forestry file. And if they remain unprepared and ineffective in Ottawa, then they and their constituents need to know that there are extremely capable New Democrats who are ready, willing, and able to take their place. Thank you.